speaker is Pete Mastella from the Statewide Technology Procurement Division, to focus a little bit more on the procurement part of the technology approval and procurement lifecycle. So Pete, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Brian. Welcome, my name's Pete Mastella, and I'm a purchasing manager for Statewide Technology Procurement Division, part of Department of Technology.
Hey Pete, I think you might need to speak up a little bit for the people in the back.
Okay. Since July 1st, when IT reportable projects came over to Caltech as Statewide Technology Procurement Division, we have certain process goals to streamline the processes, to provide faster and quality, smaller procurements, certain tools for effective procurement processes, tools to manage vendors and contracts, and data collection on vendor performance. So those are our goals. And we have a plan for success, and that is to hire the best talented people, staff, and to equip them with the right tools and skills. We organize our staff within STPD. I'm going to refer our division as STPD, to organize into pods so that we provide better coverage and support for the departments on their projects. So if there is a vacation time, there's a backup, we want to make sure that we have coverage for the departments so that their projects can continue on forward. We currently are engaging with the IT community for their input and collaboration as we consider the vending community our partners. In December we had a vendor forum. We had a vendor performance forum March 13th. We just had one yesterday as part of the vendor performance task force work group. We engaged with Jim Butler's group, DGS, project oversight, state CIOs, and project stakeholders on process as they are our customers. And communication is very important as we work with departments out there, working with DGS, and we all are on a team. We're all part of the state. We all have to have a successful project, and so communication is very critical, and we understand that. Certain process improvements, STPD is currently working on the development of a streamlined procurement. Now, we use the typical 10-part. We are using a 2-part streamline approach, and we're trying to minimize the redundancies. We're trying to streamline certain aspects of a procurement process. We're trying to provide better statement of work, technical guidance, so that when you're ready for a procurement and it comes up to procurement, we have a really good, solid statement of work that has a breakdown structure, from tasks, deliverables, requirements, SLAs. It needs to be a really good, solid work breakdown structure for us to go out to bid. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. We are utilizing a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, so that we clearly lay out the roles and responsibilities when we run a project procurement with the department. And that it outlines the roles and responsibilities with the customer agencies. And we've been using that now since last year, and it's been working well. We also are working with departments to utilize better market research tools and to engage in the vending community to gather the requirements and other relevant information to understand that vendors can realistically deliver a solution. And I'll go into that a little bit more when I go over the STAR procurement components. Other process improvements, like I mentioned earlier, we're working with the solicitation requirement packages associated with the statement of work, the other requirements that are associated with that, because it's really important that that package makes a lot of sense, it's traceable, it also assists in the evaluation criteria. If your package doesn't make any sense and it's all over the place, how are you going to evaluate a solution when it comes in? So I want you to kind of keep that in mind. We are focused on best value evaluation criteria that differentiate bidder proposals, the mandatory focus on price with these proposals are not giving you best value. So that is something that we want to focus on, and we're currently utilizing. We're issuing draft IFBs and RFPs to the vending community so that they are going to get a very quick picture of the whole solicitation, not just certain aspects of something as part of market research. So we're allowing 7-10 days for vendor feedback prior to issuing a final RFP, and so we're encouraging vendor input. We are incorporating lessons learned from past and current projects into the statement of work and terms and conditions. So certain things that we've learned, we're trying to incorporate those provisions. And that will mitigate, manage risk on these projects as we go forward. And as I mentioned earlier with DGS, we are collaborating with DGS, sharing information, combining customer forums, and creating collaborative training sessions for our agencies. We are also currently providing intermediate acquisition training for our internal staff. As I mentioned earlier, we just conducted a vendor performance task force work group meeting yesterday, and to develop metrics, potentially scorecard methodologies, other things. So we're kind of keeping it open. And then we'll work with the state officials as part of the work group, vendor performance work group. So vendors and state officials are going to be engaged. We are focused on contract management plans. So prior to issuing a contract, we're expecting that there's a contract management plan in place with a contracts manager, with laying out the roles and responsibilities to manage that contract. It's really important. Other public entities on the outside are using that tool. And so we want to foster that. And we're using 6611, PCC 6611 negotiations more frequently to be able to provide a better contract and hopefully overall reduce the cost to the state. So what's new and exciting? Patrick referenced the STAR project, and we're part of the team, and certain procurement components of the STAR project are market research, acquisition strategy, memorandum of understanding, statement of work, and it's not just statement of work, it's the whole package. And I think that I'll talk about that just a little bit later. Reportable IT telecommunications streamlined procurement templates. We're really working hard. We're piloting that now, and we've used it in the past, and so with success. And we have streamlined the cycle times. We have actually issued the solicitation, awarded the contract within a 4-month period. Now, obviously, for large, complex IT projects, that's going to be a lot different than the typical IT procurements that are not as complex. Draft IFB to provide informal vetting with industry. And then there's the post-award contract management elements that I guess will be worked on with the team as we move forward. So these areas are really important to us. Currently, we have market research toolkits. The acquisition strategy is the ITPP, the Information Technology Procurement Plan, the Statement of Work. Those are the 3 areas I want you to walk away with, sort of like gold nuggets as we leave. And if you need this presentation, I'd be more than happy to email it to you. And so as we move forward as part of the procurement lifecycle, I want to focus on the pre-solicitation, because that's really where the rubber meets the road. If you do a lousy job on the market research, you're going to get a lousy contract on the back end. So as we go through this cycle here, it's really important that this is very critical. It has a lot of components to it, and we can help departments provide consulting services to help them on the pre-solicitation phase. So the ITPP is part of the FSR. It documents procurement information for an information technology project. I propose it outlines the acquisition strategy and it determines how the acquisition satisfies the state requirements. The ITPP is scalable. So years ago when I put the ITPP together, I was one of the drafters. This was real critical because that was always a question. Well, how much time, how much money do we, well, it depends on the scope of what your needs are, your business needs are. So I just want you to focus on that because we are looking for efficiency, but we want it to be concise. Why an ITP? ITPP, department benefits and enhances acquisition and contract management of IT projects, improves acquisition value effectiveness, identifies appropriate acquisition strategy based on market research activities, integrates acquisition planning, process, and personnel in a comprehensive plan. Certain oversight benefits, improves likelihood of expected outcomes, provides opportunity to jointly monitor and evaluate procurement activities, and ensures compliance with state policy and procedures, presents opportunity for offer prescriptive measures, mitigates acquisition risk to the state. Market research. What is market research? Market research means collecting and analyzing information about capabilities within the existing vendor market to satisfy business needs. What's the scope of the project is really important. Does the project require COTS, MOTS, or customized software development? What's the percentage of the customization? All of these things are important up front as part of the pre-solicitation activities, as part of market research. Does the project require integration? Is the project a standalone? Is the project a standalone system with minimal integration? Does the project involve state databases and/or legacy systems? Certain market research factors, the extent of the research will depend on factors such as urgency, estimated dollar value, and complexity. So, the tools. There's certain research techniques, and there's an RFI. There's various different tools that are available in the bucket, so to speak. You can use the internet, go on trade shows, collect data for same or similar systems from other states. This one's typically overlooked, but I have seen departments actually use that quite frequently, and I think that's a great idea. There's local, federal, private, non-profit entities, trade associations, supplier demonstrations. We're a big component of supplier demonstrations, and I think if you don't go out there to see what the community has, the vendor community has, it's very difficult to decide, well, how do I build my statement of work and all my technical requirements to go into a solicitation. We have learned a lot of supplier demonstrations, and we encourage that. You can consult your procurement office, our procurement office, to look at past contracts, histories of what has been done before. Other research techniques may be using consultants to assist in the market research. The RFI is the typical tool that we use, and it should state that when you go out for information, gathering information, make sure you say it's at no cost to the state. Identify requirements within the RFI as mission critical, desirable, optional. Responses are used to support FSR cost baselines. Now, I frequently get questions about, well, should I ask for costs? Yes. When I worked in the federal government in DOD, they went out and asked for a rough order of magnitude. There's no reason you shouldn't ask for that. So it can be compartmentalized, but you need that data. We need the data to perform an in-house cost estimate. And so it's okay, work with our office on these large IT projects, procurements. We'll be more than happy to assist in developing the RFI, but it's okay to ask for estimated costs. It's very difficult to develop that in-house, so you're going to have to use the vending community to pull that data in, assess it, and analyze it for you to do a better job on your costs, which means that there'll be less problems on the back end if the solution comes in and you're able not to have to do an SPR because of costs. Market research is scalable, as we talked about earlier. You need to document the extent and results of the market research. There's certain tips and observations. For successful procurement and solution, know what the market offers. Keep in mind when you go out and gather data, it cannot be restrictive when you develop your requirements. You need to consider one or more vendors that can provide that those set of requirements, whether functional, technical, everything, all it takes is one to set up in your RFP that's geared to one vendor solution, and you're in trouble. So you got to, that's really important. Like I said, don't let one requirement drive your procurement. Always consider demonstrations. So what is the proposed method of acquisition? Will it be a leveraged procurement, competitive bid? You're going to have to do market research in order to make that determination. I mean, how competition will be achieved through the selected procurement method. You need to take a look at that. Are you looking at source development? Are there small businesses, DVBEs out there? Have you looked at approaches to mitigate procurement risks, such as bonds, withholding amounts, liquidated damages? Understand the methodology for procurement vehicle, the RFI, conceptual proposals, draft proposals, final proposals. We can assist departments if you have any questions as to how to set that up. Okay, are there limitations to competition in the procurement methodology chosen? Does the project involve add-ons, enhancements to state databases or legacy systems? These are questions you should be asking. Background and contracting history. It's really important to contact your procurement office, our office. Bid syncs out there, that's an available resource. Have we purchased the solution before? Is it performance-based, shared savings? We have a lot of history in different types of contracts. And certain departments really do specialize. FTB specializes in very complex, performance-based, shared savings types of procurements. Is the application available from single, few, or multiple suppliers? Is the supplier community familiar with the state procurement process, and will they compete? Considerations lead to a procurement method. Formal RFP, IFP, informal is typically a request for a quote. There are leveraged procurements that typically use a request for offer approach as a solicitation method, and non-competitive bids, which are NCVs. Leveraged procurement methods as available, CMAS, master's agreements, statewide contracts, as Jim mentioned before, software license programs, WSCA, state price schedules, other state schedules that California has wrapped their arms around also. Informal bid method for IT goods and services up to $1 million. It's advertised. You can go to the small business DVB option, which is typically obtaining quotes from at least 2 certified small businesses or 2 certified DVBEs and award to a certified small business or a certified DVBE. That's another option. The formal bid method are IT goods and services over $1 million. It's advertised in BidSync. Solicitations and supplier responses must be in writing. Typically, separately sealed costs for best value effective solicitation responses with the IFP RFP. And it's typically a multi-step procurement. So there's certain procurement options. Think in terms of dollar values, dollar thresholds. CMAS limits are up to $500,000. Master agreements are $1.5 million. Small business DVB option less than $250,000. Formal bids typically over $1 million. Informal less than $1 million. WSCA's unlimited. Statewide contracts unlimited. Software license program typically less than $2 million. And I like to always put down here, it's illegal to split purchases for the purpose of circumventing the procurement process. So the procurement methodology process in recap, the department has a determined need that has project approval. And DGS has certain delegation authority. If they fall under the DGS delegation authority, they follow their processes and to work the procurements. If it's a no, it comes over to us, and with that, I'll move on. Information Technology Procurement Authority. Acquisitions, including NCBs, SCRs, and LTB approvals that exceed the department's purchasing authority and are part of an IT project that is reportable to Caltech under SAM section I know we say 4,800, but I like to be specific. 1937 IT project reporting criteria must be conducted under STPD's procurement authority. So let's go on to the statement of work. I mentioned the market research, acquisition planning, or procurement strategy, and now we're going to focus on the statement of work. As part of Dennis's team, the STAR team, we really are going to focus on this area and a work breakdown structure traceability according to that roll up into a statement of work. It's very critical for the success of your project. Statement of work definition. PMI defines the statement of work as a narrative description of the products and services to be supplied to the client under contract. Proposed definition for the statement of work. It is a written description of work to be performed under a contract to satisfy particular needs of the user. The statement of work is not a standalone document, but complemented by other requirements. It becomes an integral part of the solicitation and the foundation of the resulting contract. Statement of work. In simple terms and simple transactions, it can consist of a line item on the face of a purchase order or contract that define what's being purchased, each item of which may include specifications. Well, there's the complex side of what a statement of work is, and we all know that with IT projects. The more complex IT procurements for solutions. The statement of work is usually a separate document within the solicitation or contract in narrative form with attachments to further define the items being purchased via work breakdown structure. Attachments may be business technical requirements, functional, design specs. I mean, there's a whole gamut of things that can go in here. Service level agreements. Attachments need a work breakdown structure and be traceable to the statement of work. So we'll be providing more guidance in the future in regards to that. Focus. The statement of work is always an important component of the IT project. And it's also critical if you have to go to court, can't resolve things. The first thing the judge is going to say, what does the statement of work say in your contract? I mean, who's heard that before? So it's not just the statement of work. If I'm the judge, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to figure it out. If it's all over the place, there's no traceability, there's no work breakdown structure, I think the drafter of that is going to be in trouble. Benefits of statement of work. Provides a basis for responding to an IFP or RFP. The basis of understanding the state's needs in turn may reduce overall risk in the proposal response and state evaluations. It's also a basis for determining a more accurate bid price. If I'm a vendor out there and there's no work breakdown structure, I can't tie the tasks to deliverables and all the other associated items associated with that particular line item, I'm not sure how to price that. So the state typically gets their prices going up to cover the the risk to the vendor. So this focus, work breakdown structure, is going to be a much better approach as you go out on the street. It makes sense to the vending community. You're going to get a better price. You're going to get better solutions coming in. And it establishes the baseline upon which change, scope, cost, and schedule is measured. The baseline to measure when work is satisfactorily completed and payment is justified. It also provides a method of recording, measuring, and analyzing services and products provided. Serves as a necessary baseline for audit purposes, and also if you have to go to court. Provides both the service provider and client by clearly defining roles and responsibilities, and it provides a snapshot in time of what the parties agreed to. In case of personnel turnover, memory lapse, difference in perceptions, and disputes. The benefits of having a detailed statement of work on a project are significant and far outweigh the costs associated with developing it. And we can provide guidance to the departments in regard as to what kind of questions to ask as part of your statement of work development. We have a lot of experience, and we have a lot of things that can help departments. So we encourage you to contact us to help you in that area. So closing thoughts. Remember to ask, are you ready for procurement? Well, from a procurement perspective, we're going to be asking these questions. And as part of project initiation, we're going to ask, is there a workflow analysis, a business need? Where are we at with market research? Are you going to need us to assist you in that? And then eventually the department's going to have to do a make or buy decision. Can we do it in-house, or do we have to go out on contract? And sometimes we sell ourselves short. We should always look in-house first. So that we were going to ask if there's a project charter, obviously an approved FSR, certain requirements for procurement, statement of work, deliverables, technical requirements, evaluation criteria. Prior to going ahead with the procurement, we're going to know if you've got everything in place before we can issue a draft or a final RFP on the street. So then we do the procurement, we go through the evaluation, there's certain key action dates associated with the activities. We go through an evaluation process, make the contract award, and then this contract management plan, or contract project plan, whatever you want to call it, it needs to be in place so that as we go through an oversight of the project, we've got the contracts manager and the project team together working, following the same goals, is to have a successful project. And the intent of that project manager is to facilitate, not to hold things up, but to actually facilitate the project team so that appropriate documentation, amendments are done and recorded. You tell the story so that at any point along the line, when there are changes made, it needs to be documented, it needs to be in that procurement or contract folder. We don't have, we're not going to have those issues, and things can be resolved faster. And then there's eventually project closeout. Any questions? I've got my email listed here so that you can ask me anything related to IT, IT procurements. With that, question?
I'm Jennifer Wong, Cal. Is the contract management plan, is that for the project as a whole or the individual acquisition?
It's for the individual acquisition. Delineating the roles and responsibilities, and it should also delineate what they can and can't do. For these large IT projects that fall under STPD authority, they need to understand that there's certain things that we have authority, and they're really monitoring the contract for the most part. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
DGS is working on the SOW T's and C's for cloud right now. I know some of the customers' projects, I'm with OTEC, so most of you are our customer. Some of those projects will have a component of cloud for something within the project. How is that going to work? Will they need to have a separate SOW for the cloud portion of their project that will be incorporated with the main SOW?
Yeah,
they seem like they can conflict at times.
And right now we're still developing the cloud policy, so more will come out. But I would like you to touch base with me after and to see where we're at with the cloud policy. We're working with DGS on terms and conditions with SAS, terms and conditions and other. Yeah, go ahead.
I think for the large projects, those are going to be very carefully crafted agreements anyway. So if a component of it is cloud, you would apply those T's and C's to that component. And then the craft is just making sure everybody understands the order of precedence and the applicability of each term. Because you can have conflicting terms in a contract as long as there's a path to follow when you apply them.
So keep in mind we're still developing the overall cloud policy. That's not out yet. Joe.
Hi. So for both of you guys, so is the policy getting into the actual terms and conditions that we would then attach to the contract for SAS? And then are you guys looking at the policy to change the current
Yes,
IT
looking at the policy.
The current IT policy that says you have to be housed at a state data center. So now will you change it to where you could be housed at a tier 3 data center outside of OTEC?
That hasn't been determined yet.
SAS is going to be somewhere else, not at OTEC.
Right, we're still working that out. We haven't made a final decision in those areas yet, Joe. So we're still, I can't answer that at this time.
Well, I mean, as we move forward, we gotta look at the IT policy and see if that needs to be changed as well.
Yeah, so the T's and C's will be there, and how they get applied is an IT policy question, right? So you got to follow the IT policy, whatever that is. So
Which is still under development.
This is a state data center.
Right. I can't make that decision right now. It's still under
Oh,
development.
no, I know. I'm just putting that out there that we have to get past that hurdle as well.
Okay. Any more questions?
Pete, my name is Rosemary Linares. I currently work for EDD. And my question is regarding one of the slides that concerned market research. You gave us various options for market research. But as a fiduciary of the state, I was concerned about the one that stated that consultants may assist in providing market research. What if that consultant targets a company that they worked for or a sub of or unknowingly worked for before? So there's a bias, there's always this bias there. How do we avoid that or circumvent that from occurring?
That's a good question. We just have to make sure that they're not going to be focused on follow-on type procurements. That will have to be assessed as you go out for consulting help. So you're going to need to, it's going to take some analysis on your part to ensure that there is no conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you.
So I can sort of offer a vendor perspective on that, because we do that kind of work. We're actually doing it for one of the state agencies right now, and as part of helping them through the market, well, for the whole procurement process, but including the market research, there's a non-disclosure, that you usually have to sign as, before being party to any kind of procurement, confidential information. Part of that included effectively sort of an independence and objectivity assertion that, there's nothing that we would do that would be in any way sort of, uneven, or that would, give any sort of favoritism to any of the vendor. So ultimately, you sort of rely somewhat on the vendor being honest, but at least the state entity has something on record where the the vendor has signed away that yes, they will not. There's some recourse if you found out later that they had.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
So I've got a question for you, Pete, since I've got you as a captive audience now. One thing I'm sort of interested in some of the sort of improvements to the process and modifications that are going on right now. For example, moving from the 10-part to the 2-part, and the concept of being more streamlined and efficient with the process. At the same time, there's not necessarily new, but there's a stronger focus on using some additional tools like market research and draft RFPs, which I think a lot of people would recognize as sort of a good thing and helps to get to a better outcome. But extra steps also means extra time in the procurement process, so there's sort of a balance there. Do you have any sort of thoughts or advice about how to balance those two things? On the one hand, taking a lot of time to do a lot of steps and maybe having a great result, but it makes for a longer procurement as well.
Yeah. So depending on the scope of the project, will dictate the extent of the market research. So you're dealing with large dollar projects. You need to then decide on the techniques of the market research that are going to be deployed. So it's on a case-by-case basis, and so obviously you're not going to want to spend $5 million on market research, right, for a $10 million procurement. So there's some judgment here on a case-by-case basis as to the extent of the market research. The 2-part or the streamlined procurement process, the intent of that was to pull away a lot of the duplications and to really focus on we have a part 2 that really focuses on statements of work, the work breakdown structure associated with the other requirements, technical requirements, is to keep it in one area. It's not really to say, I'm going to put the statement of work over here in this section, then I'm going to put the technical requirements over here, and so forth. So it makes it difficult for departments to think, you know what, I need to make sure this is all together. With the statement of work at the very top, it needs to talk about the solution and the subcomponents of that, down to the task deliverables. It may point to other areas so that that streamlined approach, it allows the departments to really zero in rather than having it spread out like that. It's very difficult to think in terms of a work breakdown structure when I'm looking like this. If it's in a chronological work breakdown structure approach in one area, it adds efficiency, it adds accuracy. It allows vendors then to go to one place to review what we're asking for, and just provides better pricing. As a vendor, I'm going to ask you right now, Graham, would you like to see something like that together rather than spread out in different areas?
Yeah, I mean, we're actually going through a procurement right now where it's a sort of a pilot of a two-part with you, and I think it's an improvement, and it'll help probably with contract management afterwards, because you basically split out. There's the procurement material and then there's the contract material, and it's all bundled together. I think it's going to be helpful for all parties.
And it's a lot more work from the department's perspective to think about it. The work breakdown structure, traceability. It is a lot of work, let's face it, but you put the work in now, the quality in now, and you're going to reap the benefits later. So your project success will be higher, your costs are going to be more realistic, you're going to get vendors not complaining, reduce disputes once you're on contract. So, yeah, any other questions? Now's your time.
Pete,
Yes,
is
Mark?
that a lot of that going to be taken care of in the pre-solicitation stage or stage gate 1 and part of 2? So it actually isn't in the procurement timeline, right? Or is that?
Right, so market research as part of the stage 2, it talks about procurement strategies, and there's a, that word says a lot. I mean, it's a mouthful. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that. So the market research is critical, and for departments, it's the developing of the statement of work, the requirements, it's putting the technical package together, your statement of work, and that's really, you're going to have to do the market research, develop the requirements, and then determine the procurement strategy. In many cases, departments have said, RFP, but they haven't done the market research yet. So, or how about this one? It's 90 days to get an RFP out on the street. Just like that. And then they come to procurement and they say, we've promised our executive 90 days to get an RFP out on the street. And so when we start digging in, are you really ready for a procurement? You start finding out there's no statement of work. They're still working on the requirements. So all that is part of the pre-solicitation phase. And what I'm trying to say is we're here to help you to get through market research, to provide examples, to provide guidance in developing your statement of work, and we want you to be successful, and that's part of the pre-solicitation phase. As I showed in the very beginning, that is everything. You can go through the procurement processes and you follow the process in the end. It's legitimate, your vendors aren't going to complain, but man, if you really focus up front, you're going to get the vendors just happy, and the number of vendors will go up. So, but if it's all over the place, I'm a vendor, I'm going to do an in-house business assessment and say, I'm not going to touch this. So market research is critical.
And I can kind of back that up, Marnell, to kind of help answer your question. We were looking at the stage gate model, and we're talking about stage 2, where we begin speaking about procurement and acquisition strategy. One of the things you might see actually added to the stage 2 will be a formal edition of market research. We think it's really that important. And another thing that we're going to be focusing on as part of the project approval lifecycle, since the procurement phase is now in project approval lifecycle, is taking a look at that statement of work. We think those are two very important components to making successful procurement and a successful project. So,
Thank you.
And we do have market research guidelines available, but obviously it's going to have to be vetted, and hopefully as we work with the departments out there, we'd like to get their input and their experience as to what needs to be in there, so we want to keep that open. Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much.
So we still do have a little bit of time, so does anyone have any additional questions either for Jim or Patrick based on their prior presentations? Okay. Well, I hope you'll join me thanking our presenters.